Hello everyone and welcome to another speed paint. Today I'm going to be drawing my favorite Dungeons and Dragons character that I have made, which is Archeon. Before we get into that, I want to say sorry if you hear any background noise. There is construction going on currently and I can't do anything about that. So anyway, before I get into my Dungeons and Dragons character whom I love very much, let me talk about the drawing process a little bit. So I usually don't use references, which is a mistake on my part, but I've recently, and by recently I mean like a week ago, started using references to their fullest potential, and it's really helped me. I really feel like this drawing is like one of my best drawings so far, and I really love the end product. I really love it. But yeah, so I was looking for some references and all, that kind of stuff on Pinterest, because that's usually where I get my face references and pose references. I don't really like Pinterest because there's a lot of like reposting and stuff that goes on there, but it is pretty good for references and inspiration and sort of organizing, mood boards. And I mean, it is for that, so I would hope that it's good for it. But anyway, so yeah, I was like, shit, let me like DIY this, and I got a little blanket thing that's been sitting on my bed for a while, and I sort of just clipped it on with a hair clip, and I was like, hell yeah. And I really wanted to draw Archeon with an apple. Like, I woke up that day and I was like, I'm gonna draw Archeon with an apple. Yep, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna wake up and I'm just gonna draw Archeon with an apple. That's what's happening today. And I did, and luckily for us we had apples at home, so I was like, hell yeah. So yeah, I did that, and then you can see on the side I did a very basic breakdown of like the outline of myself, and then I did a further breakdown with the sort of the shadows and the more sophisticated shapes on myself, and my hand and apple and all that other stuff, so I could understand it a little better. And then I sort of sketched it out, and you can't see right now because it's only recording my one screen, but I actually have so I have a screen display, so obviously that's where my program and where my painting stuff is, and then above that I have a second monitor where I had two views, like two windows of this canvas opened up. One was flipped so I could check that everything looked correctly, because sometimes like when you flip the canvas you see all your mistakes, so I was just making sure that there weren't many two big mistakes that no bueno. And then I had another one where it was just like my references, and I was looking back and forth from my drawing to my reference. And then after that I sort of just like laid down a very base color, and then I started doing some coloring in terms of like blocking out the shadows and this and that, blah blah blah. And I had like a lot of trouble trying to do this. I really wanted this like dramatic lighting where it was like the light hitting like past the trees and the tree leaves and stuff, like just hitting his face and like hitting his cloak and everything else, because I did not sit in the sun for like 10 minutes blinding myself essentially trying to get this pose for me not to do dramatic lighting. Like I did not do that for nothing. So yeah, I used my references to sort of get those shadows and sort of see the bounce light and all that stuff. And like another thing I really wanted to do was experiment with like bounce light and like reflective light, like off of skin and clothes and all this set. I just thought it'd be really fun, and I thought it'd be like super cool and super neat and like super dramatic, and yeah, I just really wanted to do that, so I did. But anyway, after that I just sort of started laying down more colors, like adding random colors that I saw fit, and just mostly rendering. I did do most of this drawing with the default hard brush in Paint Tool SAI, except I just like lowered the opacity, and that turned out actually super fun. I used a few blending tools, but as in like brushes, but not that much actually. It's fun. Anywho, kind of going into my D&D character, which I'm sure most of you don't care about, or maybe you didn't care about the drawing process and you're only here to hear me talk about my boy, or maybe this is both. Who knows? Who cares? I'm gonna talk about my boy. So this is Archeon. He is my favorite D&D character, and although he's not my first, he's my second. I regard him as my favorite. I did play with him the most, as in like I had most sessions with him and not with the other character who's my first, which is the emo bard guy, who I do love, don't get me wrong, but I love Archeon just a little more. He's had a little more development, a little more time in my heart. But he is a ranger and he is a homebrew race, which is a harpy, and that kind of ties into his backstory because so essentially within this campaign it was named Runaways and was run by a friend of mine, and it was named Runaways because all of us had some semblance of running away in our backstories, and it wasn't coordinated or anything. We just all happened to have in some shape or form being running away from family. So his backstory goes, he used to be part of a harpy flock. So like, you know, another group of harpies who lived like super high up in the mountains. And sort of going back to the D&D like stat thing that I used for the race for harpy, it said there that all harpies are female. And I think that's also like part of like mythology, but I was like, I already made this guy a dude, so I just ended up just making him a trans man, which sort of tied into his backstory, which you will hear now. So in this flock of harpies, they lived up in like a super tall mountain on like a weird like cliff cave kind of thing, and they were all separated into extremely rigid roles. You know, you had your hunters, your menders, your healers, like all those like different things, and you were so essentially like just you weren't allowed to go outside of the flock or outside of the little cave area unless you were a hunter and you were only out to hunt meat and food and all these different kind of things. And harpies are like super territorial and super sort of tight knit, and they don't like other people sort of entering their circles. And so Archeon kind of felt suffocated by that, and he started to sneak out more and more down to the local town, like just going out and seeing the world beyond his little flock, beyond his little confined cave area. And he really enjoyed being out. He enjoyed like seeing all these different people. He enjoyed seeing all these different cultures and experiencing all these different foods, like just experiencing other than he has known like his entire life. And like through that process, he also found out like he did not conform to what his family wanted him to be. And eventually his family found out that he was exiting like the allowed areas of whatever his role was there. And you know, like I said, the only way you can leave the flock is if you die. Like you either die in the flock or you die outside the flock. Like there's no leaving. And so obviously when they found out, they were like, you little bitch, are you like you're a traitor, like you've ratted us out, like you're mingling with other creatures, like lower beings. And that began the hunt. And he has been hunted by his family for a while, and obviously he's managed to escape. He's managed to sort of run away. There's still a bounty on his head for him, but he's far enough away now where they're not really much of a threat, but they're still kind of a threat, like in the back of his mind. Like obviously that was like for the DM to use however they wanted to, but yeah, that's his backstory. He's like despite all of that, he's got a very friendly and sort of happy disposition, like the happy demeanor, and I was initially going to play him as this sort of brooding, angsty character that sort of just, you know, sat in the back and was just like, yeah, I'm cool, I've got like bows and shit, like what. But I eventually ended up playing him just kind of as an aloof idiot. This was a decision that I made like pretty early on and after the fact, like after I made his stats. So I gave him low intelligence at some point because I figured that the way that I was playing him was his wisdom stat was fine because that mechanically like did more for me and also narratively did more for me, but his intelligence, the way I was playing him, was not whatever it was at the time. I think it had like a +1 or a 0, and I was like, no, we are going with minus. We have to go into a minus, and he's got like -2 intelligence. which super suits him. So the way that I played his stupidity was mostly social ineptitude, in the sense that he doesn't always understand the situation that's going on. Like a situation could be extremely tense, like you could cut the tension with a knife, but Archeon, to him, he'd just be like, oh, we're having a good time, we're all friends here, we're all, you know, we're all talking, we're all, you know, we're having a great time, we're having a good time, like it's okay. So he just would not understand like that, or certain social cues, or just certain innuendos or things that are kind of being implied there. He's just really bad at those things. Like extremely bad. And a lot of the times when like conversations or whatever are happening, he either doesn't understand what's going on, or he does, but he doesn't have anything to say. So instead of communicating that, he'll just like stare blankly and be like, yeah. Or he just like, he simply just won't communicate, especially since like he has, you know, walked through the forest and hunted alone for most of his life, so he hasn't really had a necessity to communicate in a sort of like team manner. In like, let's say like if you're playing a video game or whatever and you want to ping someone, hey, there's an enemy over here, Archeon wouldn't do that. He'd just be like, oh, okay, let me just go to that, like my teammates should know. Like that's sort of like his mentality. And again, he doesn't do that like out of malice or anything. He just doesn't understand that you need that sort of communication, and not everyone's going to understand you from a simple sort of blank stare. And also just he doesn't always understand the gravity of situations. I remember someone was like almost dying or something, and he simply offered an apple. It was like, well, you know, this could help. But yeah, so I played him as like an extremely skilled hunter, but just really bad in most social situations, which was for me like very interesting, because you have like this person who's extremely deadly and who, you know, who's like this proficient hunter, and he's just kind of stupid. Like he's pretty and stupid. He's kind of, you know, he's kind of a bit of a himbo. He don't got, you know, he don't got all the muscle there to be required for a himbo, but he sure is stupid and he sure is pretty. And yeah, I really enjoyed playing him like that instead of whatever I had planned, which was like a brooding character. I really enjoyed the way that he sort of turned out. He turned out as this honest and sincere kind of aloof idiot who, although he wasn't always good in intelligent or social situations, if you explained the situation to him and it was like in terms of like an emotional level, he could vibe with that, you know. Like I wanted to sort of make him emotionally intelligent from the perspective of, well, he's been through a lot and he has quite a experience like dealing with his own emotions, so he can relate to that to a certain extent and sort of just be there, you know. But yeah, I really love him. He's my favorite character. I might draw him some more, I don't know. But yeah, I'm really excited for more D&D stuff. I want to do some more D&D content. I want to just like draw D&D characters, D&D related things. I just recently started DMing again for a bunch of my friends and my girlfriend. So, you know, there's that if anyone wants to hear my D&D escapades. I also have a few stories for when I DM'd one time for this one group and then it turned out kind of really bad. So if you guys want to hear that story, like I'm all up to tell. But yeah, I super enjoyed drawing this. This is my favorite drawing of the year so far. I know we're just in February, but like, listen, I know this was gonna be like up there. So yeah, I really hope you enjoyed the speed paint. I hope you like Archeon as much as I do, because I love him. And yeah, I will see you next time, and hopefully you guys want D&D things. I love D&D things. Anyway, if you want to support me, just go follow me on any of my social media. It's all pretty much at 𝐃𝐔𝐍𝐆𝐄𝐎𝐍𝐒. If you want to support me financially, please go to my Ko-fi. And also, this is for people who go to my live streams. Don't use super chat. I think I disabled that, but somehow someone donated, and I really don't know how that works. But YouTube takes like a good percentage of that. So if you really want to like donate or support me, my Ko-fi is the best option. And again, join button. It's coming. It's gonna be a thing. I swear to God, it is. Okay, goodbye. I hope you enjoyed.